Welcome to another episode of Leadership Lessons, where we interview Kentucky Baptist ministry leaders to help all of us lead more effectively. My guest today is Dr. Charlie Goodman, and we're going to talk about why Clear Creek Baptist Bible College is the clear choice for ministry preparation. Dr. Goodman, thank you for joining Leadership Lessons.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gray. I appreciate you having me on today.
Let me tell you more about Brother Charlie. Dr. Charlie Goodman is the president of Clear Creek Baptist Bible College and a longtime pastor with 23 years of ministry experience. He's had several roles at the college and is a published author and passionate outdoorsman. Dr. Goodman and his wife, Rhonda, a high school teacher, have one daughter, Taylor, and enjoy serving Jesus together as a family. So, Brother Charlie, let's just jump right into these questions. A lot of our folks know you. Most people in Kentucky Baptist life know you. But for those who may not, tell us how you came to faith in Christ and how a call to ministry came to you.
Yeah, I became a believer. I was like a lot of folks. I was raised in church, but I became a believer at 9 years old on a Wednesday night. Folks still get saved on Wednesday nights. Amen. It's kind of a funny story. We didn't normally go on Wednesday nights, but I had an uncle who did, and he would call sometimes and ask me if I would want to go with them. So my Uncle Tom, who's actually a great uncle, he was a deacon of the church there. He come and picked me up, and little did I know that my life would be changed forever. Wow. The pastor's name was George Miller, and I tell folks, he preached the gospel that night, and God the Holy Spirit dealt with me, and I became a believer. And then moving through my teenage years, no one really discipled me. I didn't know that was missing. I just wasn't raised in a church where discipleship seemed to be a priority. And then my junior year in high school, I actually started attending a different church that was pastored by a Clear Creek graduate. Oh, wow. His name's Danny Mays. Wow. And Brother Danny discipled me. He never said, "Hey, I want to disciple you." He just kind of lived the Christian life alongside me. And he was the one that introduced me to the cooperative program. I didn't know that. He told me that the cooperative program was the best tool to get the gospel not only across the street, but around the world. Wow. And, through his influence and God moving in my life, I began to sense a call to ministry as a senior in high school. I didn't want to surrender to that. I tried to do other things, teach Sunday school, play an instrument a little bit, volunteer any way that I could, because I wanted to do something to make money. So if I'm just being honest with you, and then I go to secular school pursuing a mechanical engineering degree, but God the Holy Spirit would not let me go. And after a semester of that, I surrendered to the call. I didn't know of anywhere else besides Clear Creek, and that's how I ended up as a Clear Creek student.
What an incredible story. You are a living commercial for Clear Creek. So from student to pastor to president, how has Clear Creek kind of been part of your journey all along the way, just in a nutshell?
Yeah, as I look through that, Clear Creek, I tell folks this a lot, Clear Creek left an indelible mark on my life. I got here because I didn't know there were any other options. I only knew two folks that had a theological education. Both of them had matriculated through Clear Creek. So I came. When I became a student, God really began to reveal to me how little I knew. Not only did I not know the questions or the answers, I didn't even know the questions to ask. So, it was very foundational. Through pastoral ministry, doing that across 3 states and in churches of various sizes. The largest church I pastored was just over 1,000 in weekly attendance, the smallest under 100. But Clear Creek was so foundational. And then to become president, I really never had that on my radar way back when. But because the school was so impactful for me, I wanted the opportunity to do that for others.
Wow. Well, Charlie, I love that story and love hearing how those connections were forming in your life before you ever even had any idea what you were going to do as God's call on your life. Well, let's talk about Clear Creek Baptist Bible College. The same way that folks know you, most folks in Kentucky are at least somewhat familiar, most Kentucky Baptists are at least somewhat familiar with Clear Creek. But for someone who doesn't know much about the school, how would you describe Clear Creek Baptist Bible College?
Clear Creek Baptist Bible College is a unique place. When I think about the heartbeat of the institution, it really is training individuals whom God has called for some form of Christian service. We often say we're biblical, we're practical, and we're missional. So Clear Creek really focuses not only on being highly scholastic, but uniquely practical, uh, producing students that make a difference in their community of faith, wherever that may be, whether that be as a pastor or a missionary or some sort of paraministry leader.
Charlie, how would you say that Clear Creek is unique? I mean, there are lots of schools that provide ministry training at different levels, some more faithful than others. How would you say that Clear Creek is unique in its approach to theological training, but also shaping the lives of students, future ministry leaders?
Yes, sir. I think that's a great question. And students ask me a lot about institutions. We live in a day where there's a lot of really good options,
Sure.
and students have those options by staying where they are through online education. But Clear Creek is different in a number of ways. I'll just highlight a couple of those. One is the fact that at Clear Creek, we're not a Bible college in name only. Yeah. Every baccalaureate student is going to take 32 hours of Bible. Now, if you compare that to other institutions, even if you say major in biblical studies, most of those institutions, let's say you major in biblical studies, you may only do 12 hours of Bible as a biblical studies major. But at Clear Creek, you're going to do 32. Yeah. Clear Creek's unique, Dr. Gray, in another avenue as well. When I think about, and I say that we're practical, we live that out. One of the things that we see in higher education is you have the phenomenon of folks going from the classroom to the classroom. Mm-hmm. At Clear Creek, every professor has at least 5 years real world ministry experience in what they're teaching. Mm-hmm. So not only do they understand it from a theoretical and from an academic, but they understand it from an experiential as well.
That makes a difference, you know, when guys are involved, and many of your professors are actively engaged in ministry today. It's their experience isn't just from 10 years ago or 20 years ago. It's from last Sunday when they preached or where they served in a church. But Charlie, I know that there are at least two types of students that you work with a lot. You have on-campus students and you have online students. Mm-hmm. Are those two groups similar? When I'm on campus, I see a lot of young students there. I mean, some of them are single, some married, but for the most part, they're young. They're in their 20s, maybe. Some of your online students, that probably may not describe them. Is that kind of the difference, or do you have a lot of both at both places? Tell me more about the online versus the in-person student at Clear Creek.
Yes, sir. And things have changed for us. Like, we've almost traded places. If you come on our campus 20 years ago, you would see the average student is going to be 30 to 33, mm-hmm. probably a father of one or two, where now you come and you see that younger student. The online student today for Clear Creek is typically what used to be or who used to be the on-campus student. Okay. Our average age is still around 30 when you put both the online and the on-campus together.
I talked to a young man recently that he just answered the call. He started preaching. He's a good enough preacher. They keep asking him to come back. He's had no formal training, but connected him with someone from the school, and I think they've already reached out to him. I've connected you with a pastor, and you got a hold of him the same day. I think you got him enrolled probably before you got off the phone, and so anybody that has an inkling of an interest in Clear Creek, you're going to help them. But Charlie, my experience, so I went to a secular college with a degree in marketing, went to work in sales, saved, called to ministry, and then later went to seminary in my 30s. And I felt like that the students who had a Bible college background were miles ahead of me. I was hearing Old Testament survey, New Testament survey, systematic theology, church history. I was hearing all of that for the first time, but they were immersed in it. I'm thinking in particular about Alan Dodson. Alan was a student with me at Southern Seminary. Alan had been through Clear Creek, and he was so much more advanced. What's the advantage of a Bible college for a person who's trying to get prepared for ministry training, and how does Clear Creek try to make that easy for a student a pastor or a minister that wants some training?
Absolutely. I think that we can see that even looking across our big six seminaries in Southern Baptist life, they've also recognized the importance of a Christ-centric undergrad degree, and that's why we see the colleges there. It really gives the student a head start. Yeah. And if we're being really honest by looking at the hours, an undergrad student at Clear Creek that graduates with our basic Bachelor of Arts in Ministry has a lot more Bible than the MDiv student, than what you and I would have gotten at the seminaries. So it's really foundational. And you look at our core. Not only is every student going to get 32 hours of Bible, but they get at least 12 hours of theology,
yeah.
and doctrine. So it really exposes them and gives them a head start if they're going to do graduate work.
Those students, if they don't do anything else, they're prepared for a life of ministry through their time at Clear Creek. If they go beyond that to do a master's degree, either at Clear Creek or somewhere else, they have a good, solid foundation. Well, let's talk about your leadership there. So you've been serving as president now for how long? How long have you been in the role?
About 24, 25 months. Yeah.
Okay, so you got just 2 years under your belt. You've had time to pray, and you've had time to kind of get a look at the lay of the land. You've addressed several matters already in the school. Give us a little report, Brother Charlie, on how Clear Creek is doing currently, and then I want to go from there to talk a little bit about vision. But how would you kind of describe the state of the school, the health, the condition of the school right now?
Well, first, I guess I should correct. I'm a theology major, not a math major. I guess I've been here 29 months, not
That's all right.
not 25.
Hey, Brother Charlie, when folks, first 4 years of my role, people ask me how I like it. I say it's been the best 20 years of my life so far. So I understand not keeping up with the dates.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been here 12 years total through the various roles. But in reality, Clear Creek had been in a place where we had been in a decline. And we've been able to grow out of that in the last 2 years. Matter of fact, where we sit today, we're as large as we've been in just over 2 decades.
Oh, wow.
We're continuing to see growth. And again, where we are today, looking at the fall semester, which we'll be approaching in fall of 25, we're 20% ahead in recruitment today than where we were a year ago at this time.
Wow.
So we're continuing to make progress in strengthening and growing the institution.
That's very encouraging. So let's talk about what you see out in front of you. I know you pray hard, you seek the Lord, you love the school, you're immersed in the work of it every day. What's some of your vision for Clear Creek moving forward? Where would you love to see it in the next 5 to 10 years if the Lord tarries and leaves you in your place and blesses the work?
Yes, sir. When I became president, I had a clear vision, kind of a strategic plan of some things that I wanted to accomplish. And, those 3 kind of foundational things where I knew we were staring down accreditation reaffirmation with both of our accreditors. I wanted to lead us through those successfully. One of those are behind us with just tremendous how we came through our SACS reaffirmation with 0 recommendations. Less than 2% of schools ever experienced that. And I also saw a need to update and beautify the campus. Mm-hmm. In a lot of ways, our campus hadn't been touched in about 25 years. So we began to kind of just improve how it looks, the aesthetics of it, remodeling our chapel, remodeling the corridors, remodeling offices. We're in the process of remodeling the Asher Music Building. We're in a capital campaign about to go into the classroom building to remodel that. From there, we'll move to the courtyard. And really, the goal is to touch every building on our campus. And we have 82 of those, by the way. A lot of folks don't realize the number of buildings that's on our campus. But from an academic standpoint and from an institutional standpoint, we also have to continue to expand our academic offerings. Mm-hmm. We've done that, offering multiple degree tracks. We have the 2 latest, one in biblical studies that's just a very academically astute track, probably for the student that sees him or herself as becoming an academician, that really wants the robust academic side. And then we have a new track in Christian apologetics as well that we're very excited about. So continuing to offer those things. And one of the things that I've said, you've heard me say this, I have a heart to do something in Western Kentucky, to offer something there. And I've talked to some pastors. I have some folks praying with me about that. Yep. That's a big undertaking, but that's kind of where my heart is with those few foundational things.
I appreciate you saying that. I grew up in Western Kentucky. West Kentucky doesn't start until you cross over the rivers. You're in that Purchase area. But Mid-Continent was a fixture there. If you look at the churches 20 years ago, every church had a trained pastor. They were trained, most of them, through Mid-Continent. And that school just impacted lots of lives. It really left a void when they closed down and went out of business a few years ago. And there's a real need for solid, sound, conservative theological education in West Kentucky, just having a presence where folks could see Clear Creek and see that as an option, even if they did online work. I think it can make a great difference. So I'm grateful for your heart for that, Brother Charlie. So let's talk about the students. How do professors at Clear Creek invest in the lives of students, not just in the classroom, but maybe in everyday life? If a student shows up at Clear Creek to live on campus, go to classes in person, what will they get with the professors beyond just the classroom experience?
It's one of the unique things about our institution, the fact that we're very focused, we're mission driven, so all we do is ministry degrees, and the fact that we're a small entity, we have a low faculty to student ratio. So our students, and in reality, Dr. Gray, whether they're online or on campus, they're going to know their professors, personally. Matter of fact, I had an online student text me today. Most of our students have my cell number. Most of the online students have my cell number. I travel and preach for them and keep up with them and try to encourage them. It's one of the neat things, and you've probably picked up on this. Clear Creekers most of them have an affinity for the institution.
I love it.
And that's why, because, they're able to learn to live life together in a community of faith at Clear Creek as they're preparing to go and impact the world.
Well, I mean, and they're getting to be with you guys up close and spend time with you, do ministry together, and as you said, you're preaching in their churches. And Brother Charlie, I've heard great stories of your personal involvement with students. I know it means the world to them. Do you all have any? Is there an intentional effort to try and mentor students to grow not only academically but just in life? Solving your problems and showing up on time and returning phone calls. And is there an effort to try and invest in students at just the ordinary life level?
Absolutely. Mentorship is at the core of who we are and what we do. And I often tell students, and I would say this for anybody in the Christian faith, I think as believers, we should be in two perpetual relationships. One in which someone's mentoring us. Mm-hmm. We never outgrow the need for someone to pour into our lives. And the second is one in which we're mentoring someone else. So you look at that, and that becomes full circle. It becomes both symbiotic, but also comprehensive in the mentorship there. So absolutely, yeah. We teach our students to do that, to find someone to mentor them. A lot of our students are involved in internships, and that also aids them in their growth and understanding.
When I see Clear Creek students in general, I see young men, and you have female too, young women students. They've come to love the Word of God. They love the local church. The men who preach they're good preachers. They've been through enough classes. They've heard enough critique that they had to learn how to put a sermon together and deliver it. But they're just decent, humble, godly young men. Can you think of a story of a student who you think kind of embodies the work of Clear Creek and just kind of a success story, someone that you all have seen develop as a student and then as a minister?
Dr. Gray, there's so many. I mean, when I think about, and you may not be aware of this, but I think about like just Clear Creek folks that are involved in higher ed. Like currently we have graduates not only serving us, we have graduates serving Southern Baptist Theological Seminary, Southeastern, New Orleans, Mid-America, Liberty, University of Cumberland, Union University, Charleston Southern, Oklahoma Baptist University.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it from just a ministerial standpoint, I think about several names come to mind. Let me just give you a few.
Sure.
One would be Ralph Reagan, who's in Middle Tennessee, has a tremendous benevolent outreach ministry. It's colossal. Doing a wonderful work there. I think about a guy like Travis Ferris at First Baptist Richmond. That's a Clear Creek grad. They've had just such a tremendous season of evangelism, discipleship, and baptisms birthed out of his time there. And I think about a couple current students. One of these names you will know. I think about Abram Crozier. That's at Trinity Southern. Just doing an awesome job. Another student whom Abram will graduate with, his name is Matthew Thompson. He's in Clinton, Tennessee.
Okay.
He's pastoring Black Oak Baptist Church and doing a phenomenal job. That church is on fire. There's a lot of success stories of folks who have come through Clear Creek and God's really using them in great ways.
Well, Charlie, we're glad to see folks go off to the foreign mission field of Tennessee, but keep as many of those students in Kentucky as you can. Help us work together to find them good places where they can minister. So, Brother Charlie, you're well acquainted with the local church. You know the local church atmosphere in the area, Bell County, where you're located, and other parts of Kentucky. What do you see as one or two of the top needs of the local church, and then how Clear Creek is working to meet those needs?
Unfortunately, Dr. Gray, I think one of the greatest needs the local church has currently is the need of revitalization. And I think that one of the things we're trying to do is produce students that loves the local church. And because that's where it's going to start, is learning to love them where they are. And I often describe my own leadership style this way: loving people where they are, but leading them to where they need to go. Yeah. So through our courses on revitalization, them being able to see that played out in the lives of some of our faculty and staff, and just coming to a place where they're cognizant of that need. And it's unfortunate we say that, or I have to say that, but I really believe that's one of the greatest needs of the average local church. And there's some great churches out there that's very healthy. Yep. But
so in Kentucky, if by one criteria, this is through Lifeway's research, annual church profile, 32% of KBC churches are in decline, 52% plateaued, 15% are considered to be growing churches. And so there's plenty of room for great church health and revitalization. And boy, if those students can come through Clear Creek and end up in some of those churches and just do good ministry, that's a blessing to all of us. Brother Charlie, you all work really hard to not make finances an issue for any student that wants to go to school. You also work really hard for the bivocational pastor who may have no college training at all, hasn't even really started down that road, not even sure he wants to go down that road. Talk about both of those things just a little bit, finances and then how you serve bivocational pastors.
Yeah, absolutely. Clear Creek is continually ranked as one of the most affordable, fully accredited Bible colleges in North America. One of the reasons that we're able to do that is through our partnership with the Kentucky Baptist Convention, as you know, and through the cooperative program support that we get. So, all of our Kentucky Baptist churches, all of our Kentucky Baptist church members, when you put that tithe or that offering in the plate, there is a percentage of that makes its way back to Clear Creek. Yeah. That enables us to operate in such a way where we can get students through. My heartbeat, and you agree with me on this, is to put students through without debt. So I often say at Clear Creek, we put students in ministry, not debt. 99% of our students graduate debt-free.
Wow.
That's our goal. That's not by accident. We intend to do that. So if a student feels like they need to be at Clear Creek, if God's called them here, finances is not a reason for them not to come. Yeah. I often tell prospective students, don't worry about the sticker shock. Yeah. If God wants you to be here, we'll find a way to get you here.
Well, brother, thank you for everything you shared about Clear Creek, for your leadership there. I'm having fun watching you from my observation point as a leader. So let's talk a little bit about leadership before we finish up our time. So
absolutely,
you love the Bible. Who is one of your favorite biblical leaders, male or female? Someone you see in the Bible that really stands out to you, that you love their leadership style?
Well, I wanted to give you someone that you probably don't hear often, okay? So I'm going to take you back to the Old Testament. I'm going to take you back to 612 BC, okay. And there's a young Babylonian general by the name of Nebuchadnezzar.
Yeah.
He marches his father's army into Nineveh, the capital city of Assyria, and he lays siege to it. It's an accomplishment that in the biblical world of the time, most folks would have thought this is impossible. Now, as we fast forward, 605, Nabopolassar is going to die, and Nebuchadnezzar becomes king. So I wouldn't say Nebuchadnezzar is my favorite biblical leader, but I've always been intrigued by him. And if you would like, I'll share with you why.
Yeah, please do.
I think that he's audacious. You look at what he does as a general. That's an audacious move to march into Nineveh. As he comes back through in 605, he's going to take Daniel, and then the three Hebrew children, we know them best by their Chaldean names, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He's going to take those four and the other choice young men. He takes them back to Babylon. He's going to indoctrinate them and assimilate them into Chaldean life. Now, I believe that his plan all along was to bring the other Hebrews into captivity, but he's going to use this group of young men after he assimilates them in the Chaldean life to then assimilate these others that he's going to bring into captivity. So while on one hand, I see this audacious, bold leader, I see a very focused plan. He had a plan of what he wanted to accomplish. Yeah. He had a process of how he was going to do it. But then think about the patience. Usually audacious and patient doesn't go together. Right. But I see that in the life of Nebuchadnezzar just through the biblical story there.
Yeah, that's very exciting. No, that's a first, Brother Charlie. Thank you for sharing it. I'll be thinking about Nebuchadnezzar for a good while. So here's a harder question. What have you had to learn about yourself to lead more effectively?
Yeah, that's you think you have to learn who you are as a leader. Yeah. And one of the things that some leaders struggle with is knowing who they are and then being who they are. Okay. I think that we have to learn who we are. So for me, Brother Todd, I've learned I'm a visionary. I'm a big picture leader. I'm an aggressive leader. But a big picture leader and an aggressive leader can sometimes get lost in the details. Mm-hmm. So I've learned not only in staffing a college, but even as a pastor and putting staffs together, I needed folks who could check the boxes, who could dot the I's, cross the T's, and keep me focused, because I can get tunnel vision based on whatever goal that we're working towards.
And idea guys have a new idea every 15 minutes. Kerry Newhoff says that he has ideas every 15 minutes, and his ideas have ideas, and so that can be trying for the people that you're trying to lead. It can feel like an impossible workload. Great job learning about yourself, Brother Charlie. Here's another difficult question. What is one leadership lesson that you've had to learn the hard way?
Yeah. Great question, and one that we all have to answer. I would say, let me kind of set up the answer. Okay. Leadership will be solidified and it will be qualified based on fellowship. So, if we wonder what kind of leader are we, I think we can look and see what's the fellowship like. Okay. But in the course of that, there's a process and there's seasons. So I would describe it like this. One of the lessons I had to learn the hard way is learning to read the seasons of whatever entity that I'm leading. Okay. And I mean it like this. We know, let's take the weather seasons. We know that springs come because the cold mornings have been replaced with cool mornings. Mm-hmm. And the cold days have been replaced with warm days. And we're able to discern that. What in the life of a leader and in the life of the entity that he's leading, there's going to be seasons. There's a time for planting, there's times for tending, times for watering, and then there's going to be that time of harvest. And I think sometimes for me, because I'm an aggressive leader, I'm a visionary guy, I want things to happen. Sometimes I've got to be mindful that we're in the process. Yeah. We're planning. Maybe we're plowing, we're planting, we're tending, we're watering, but the harvest is going to come.
I think pace goes along with that as well, that you have to kind of understand. I get to talk to a lot of young pastors and try to communicate that if you're taking your family on a trip to Florida, if it's just you can get in your car, make very few stops, and arrive at a good time. But it's not just you. You want your family to go. Right. And if you have little children, especially toddlers, it's going to be a different kind of trip. And we have to think about that, about the folks that we're trying to lead. Brother Charlie, what do you do as a leader, and what have you done as a leader when you've made a mistake in leadership? You've recognized it. What have you done with the mistakes you've made as a leader?
Especially as a mature leader, I started pastoring at 20 years of age. Okay. So, we go back, and one of the things I've learned, it doesn't bother me to say I got it wrong. Yeah. And I've never been afraid to get it wrong. I've always been more afraid of doing nothing. Okay. So it doesn't bother me if I get it wrong, just to own it and say, hey, I was wrong here. So now we're going to do it this way because we believe this is the right way. So for me personally, that's never bothered me because I never thought I had all the answers anyway.
Yeah, that's good. So go back to that 24, 25-year-old pastor. Maybe he's graduated from Clear Creek, and and he
Yes, sir.
he doesn't really know what he doesn't know yet, but he thinks he knows a whole lot about the local church and ministry. If you could just really pour some advice into his mind and heart that you knew would stick, what are the top couple of things that you'd want him to know and understand about leading a local church?
I would start with something very, very simple. I would remind him to learn to walk with God in the midst of his calling, and to do that encompassed by his family. So with that, I would say stay in God's word. It's so easy to read books about the book, but forget the importance of the book.
Yep.
It's so easy to just open the book to get a sermon or a lesson. Yep. But we need to walk with God in the pages of his word. And Brother Todd, as we do that, we're going to capture the vision, not our vision, but God's vision for that local church, because it's his church.
Yeah.
We're just merely, under shepherds of that. And then if we stay in the word and we capture the vision, then we're able to persevere into that vision.
Yeah, that's good. That's good advice. Dr. Charlie Goodman, thank you for your leadership at Clear Creek. Thank you for your friendship. I'm so grateful for you and get to know you and spend time with you. And thank you for taking the time to join Leadership Lessons today.
Hey, thank you so much. I always enjoy getting to fellowship with you, my friend.
Amen. Thanks for listening to Leadership Lessons. An audio podcast of this program is available on both Apple and Android devices. The Kentucky Baptist Convention was created by churches for churches to help churches reach Kentucky and the world for Christ. For more information about the KBC and the cooperative program which fuels our ministry, go to kybaptist.org. We'll see you next time on Leadership